You know, folks, every election of my lifetime has always got heated. We've always had very heated disagreements and very heated arguments. And the closer you get to an election, the more heated it becomes. And the candidates sometimes really go at it and they get in the mud and they really sling the mud at one another. And sometimes you think to yourself, man, we couldn't possibly become more polarized. But this election here is the one that just takes the cake on that. I don't think we've ever been more polarized before. I don't think we've ever been more divided. And I lay the blame right at Donald Trump's feet. There's people out there that would say that us on the left needs to turn the temperature down, but this is the guy that continues to turn it up, and no matter how many receipts we bring, his followers just refuse to see it. Because while we look over at them and say to ourselves, well, they've been duped by him. They've been absolutely played by this guy. They look over at us and think that we've been duped by the mainstream media and that Donald Trump's their savior that's came to rescue everybody. And they think that the rest of us have been duped into believing that he's the villain. But we bring the receipts and show what he said. We show what he's done. And we leave no stone unturned when we do so. And yet they will still, once they're shown these receipts, they can't bring themselves to believe it because at the end of the day, they don't want to ever admit that they've been duped. So here's another receipt for them. We've been facing these hurricanes here on the East Coast. There's been so much devastation all around us. So many people have lost their lives, lost their families, lost their businesses, lost their homes. And you would think that this would be the moment where we could set aside some political differences and say, you know what, we may not always agree, but we're going to be here for each other during these times. But not Donald Trump. Donald Trump accuses President Biden of not helping North Carolina, and in the same day, just a few hours later, says that he wouldn't help California. And this will go right over his followers' head, but I'm always going to keep pointing it out anyway.
North Carolina really got hit. I'll tell you what, those people should never vote for a Democrat because they held back aid. They were so bad. But
And we'll say, Gavin, if you don't do it, we're not giving you any of that fire money that we send you all the time for all the forest fires that you have.
So first he says the people of North Carolina should never vote for a Democrat, ever, because they won't help you. And then the same day turns around and says that he wouldn't help California, that if they were burning to the ground, he'd tell Gavin Newsom tough shit. And his followers jump through the hoops of the mental gymnastics when he says both of those things. They roll with it. Because, see, I'm of the nature that if a politician said to me, hey, don't vote for the other side because they wouldn't help a state in need, I would hang on to that thought. But then if I saw them just a few hours later say, hey, if your state's in need, I wouldn't help you, I would call bullshit. I would back up and say, wait a minute, hold on, that's hypocritical. But MAGA doesn't do that. They don't have the ability to do that. And that's the part about them that truly does fascinate me. Because no matter how many receipts you bring right straight out of his mouth, they still find a way to twist it. And I know I say this, I know it gets repetitive, but he truly has empowered their hatred. And he's empowered them to be who they are, but he's gave them an identity. He has made them feel special, and he's made them feel as though they are fighting for something. He's also made them feel like they're the victims in the story. That's the biggest thing about MAGA these days, which goes so far away from what the Republican Party used to be. I'm no Republican, never have been. I've always voted straight ticket Democrat ever since I've been able to vote. But the Republican Party used to be about accountability. At least they preached it. They would preach accountability. They would preach pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. And they used to always accuse those of us on the left of having the victim mentality. And I've been told that before. Oh, you people on the left, you guys just always try to play the victim. You always try to act like the government's there to help you. But yet, that became Donald Trump's entire identity, is that he is the victim in this story. That somehow he went out there and he broke every rule in the book and did it right in front of everyone's face. We brought every receipt and showed where he did it right in their face. And if that ain't enough, he's saying, I need full immunity in order to be able to do my job. There can't be any guardrails for me because I have to be able to do my job. And then you have people like Joe Rogan out there saying, oh, well, the government's terrified of Trump because he won't play by their rules. Does he not realize what an idiotic statement that is? I don't care how much money that guy's got. He's a moron for saying something like that. To want to vote someone in or just sit back and lay back and act like it's no big deal. Oh, this is going to be cool to watch him get in there and not play by the rules. Okay, so if he gets in there and he doesn't have to play by the rules and he has no guardrails and California starts burning to the ground and he doesn't like Gavin Newsom, hey, tough shit, Gavin. and is willing to let people in California who voted for him burn right along with it. But in the same day, he was criticizing Biden and accusing Biden of something that wasn't true at all. Biden has been there, and the governors of these states have come forward and said, no, Biden's been here. Biden's been here for us this entire time. Biden was here for us before the wind even picked up. So the guy just goes out there and continues to lie and project onto people, and he has got his followers trained to jump right through those hoops with him every time. And they get more angry at us for pointing out that he's duping them than they do at him for duping them. And I just go back, I've told a story on the channel before, but it's worth repeating. I go back to when I was a teenager, seeing Lamar Alexander walk across Tennessee in his flannel shirt and his blue jeans. And he was preaching morals and values and talking about being a country boy. And well, we're all country boys around here, so he kind of looked as though he was one of us. And I went to my late great Uncle Brad and I was like, hey, I know you're a Democrat, but my papa's was both Republicans. And hey, this guy seems like he's one of us. This guy seems like he's for us. He's preaching morals and values. He's wearing a flannel shirt. I love flannels. I was wearing them before Kurt Cobain made them famous. And my uncle said, yeah, but have you ever checked out his voting record? Because he hasn't backed up any of this good old boy shit he's saying when he's got behind the desk and had a pen in his hand. He didn't vote for any of these things that he's preaching. And when that was revealed to me as a teenager, I was offended and I was pissed off that I'd been duped. Just for a second, that I had been duped as a teenager. And I carried that with me my entire life. I'm still sitting here today, pissed at the Republican Party because of how they've duped people in my part of the world to voting against their own interests and calling me the bad guy. Every day, people that I grew up with, that I went to school with, that I played music with, that I've lived alongside of my whole life, they think I'm a communist. They have no problem if I got led away in handcuffs tomorrow. They'd say, well, old Brando should have just kept his mouth shut. Not one of them would stand up for me, and they know they wouldn't, and I know they wouldn't. That's why I don't give a damn if I ever have a beer with them again. But I get angry when I think about the way that the Republican Party duped people. And listen, when I talk about Donald Trump hijacking the Republican Party, I ain't letting them off the hook. I'm not trying to say that they're worth anything. They're not, because they allowed him to do it. They empowered him to do it. And they sat back when they had their chances to stop him. They didn't. So to hell with them too. I've never been a fan of the Republican Party, and while I'm glad to see some Republicans coming over on board with Kamala Harris and standing on the side of democracy, I'll give them a golf clap for that. But you know what you should have done? You should have been calling it out from day one. And you should have never let your party get hijacked by this type of extremism. That's what it is. The Republicans have always been duping people in my part of the world. They've always duped us. They've always come out here and tried to pull off the good old boy mentality. George Bush was a male cheerleader from Connecticut with a Texas accent, and nobody around here saw through it. I'm not giving that guy a pass. He was a terrible president. And if they'd actually had ideas and solutions that mattered, there would have never been a Trump, because his extremism would have never been welcome. But once he came along and took that idea, that model that the Republicans gave him, he just doused his MAGA fire on top of it and burnt the whole thing to the ground. And now when this is all over, they're going to be trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of people. I don't feel 1 ounce of sympathy for them trying to rebrand their party. You guys broke it. Lindsey Graham said, if you broke it, you deserve it. So you're getting what you deserved. Here we are at a time like this, and they're out here making these ridiculous claims that Democrats are controlling the weather. 1 minute God sent a hurricane on people they didn't like, and the next minute the Democrats got control of the hurricane. Well, if you believe that the Democrats had the power to wield the power of a hurricane away from your God, you might want to vote Democrat, because your God ain't very strong if Joe Biden can come out and take the reins of the weather away from him. We've gotten to a point where it's got so ridiculous that a plea for sanity sounds like sour grapes. And maybe I do have sour grapes because I've sat back and just watched people continue to get duped. And I'll show them this. Hey, did you see that? Did you see where that he accused Biden of not helping North Carolina? Yeah, that's bullshit, man. Biden should help. He should put his politics aside and help. Oh, well, wait. Check this out. Look what he said to California. We let Gavin Newsom. Okay, then go sit down somewhere. Okay? Because that's why when people say, I'd love to debate you, Brando, I'm not going to debate that crap. There's no debate. You don't have an argument. When you can come up with one, give me a call. I'll be glad to talk to you. Until then, you got nothing. You're just sitting there with an empty sack looking like a complete and total moron. And I can sit here for the rest of the day. And I'll be honest with you. I'll give you a peek behind the curtain. as to how I make my videos. Sometimes I see something that I want to talk about and I really have to think on it. And I have to really sit and think about, okay, how am I going to talk about this? You know, what do I want to say to my audience? And then there's other times where I see something like this and I go, hey, just how much phone power does my phone have? How big's the battery? How much storage do I have? Because I can talk about this shit all day. I can sit all day long and talk about how that he duped everybody and how that no matter how many receipts you bring, they still find a way to say that you're the crazy one, that somehow you're the communist sympathizer, or whatever word they cook up that they heard someone on Fox News or Newsmax and they parrot it. It's absolutely ridiculous. But all we have to do is stay on the right side of history and keep calling out this nonsense. And I hope they come around. I hope one day they come around, but I don't know. I really have a feeling that years from now, they will be like the people in Waco that's still waiting on David Koresh to come back. And I hate to say that, but they ain't showed me nothing that gives me any hope, really. So I really appreciate you guys for showing me hope every day. I saw a comment the other day. I can't remember who said it. Someone said, Brando is my therapist. Well, you guys are my therapist because this is therapy for me. Sitting here every day. I don't go to therapy. I go to my YouTube channel and I talk to you every day and we talk this out and we try to iron it out. And all we're trying to do is save democracy. And to everybody out there that's like, oh, they're the bad guys. We're just trying to save democracy. We just think people should have some health care for their tax dollars. We just think that women should have their rights back. We just think that gay and trans people should be able to love who they were born to love. We don't. It's not a radical ideology. It's really not. The radical ideology is to strip away everything the founding fathers put in place and replace it with a fascist government. That's everything that our families ever fought for and ever stood against. So, no, we're not the extremists here. They are, and we're never going to let them off the hook. But I truly appreciate you guys subscribing here on the channel. If you haven't already, be sure to hit it. Don't cost you anything to do so. And if you want to check out some exclusive content, we're over on Patreon. I've been having a lot of fun over there, so you guys go check that out. But we'll keep fighting the good fight. And remember, we're always going to be on the right side of history. That I can tell you.